Hey guys, Jengar here. Welcome to today's realistic review in which we are taking a look at the F-82E Twin Mustang, sitting at 5.3 battle rating these days. In the old days this thing used to be 5.0 battle rating, and it used to be a beast at that battle rating. Used to be killing, maybe a little bit too good. I had absolutely fantastic results back then. And for this fly out in this current age, I was less successful than back in those days. It was tougher, and I think probably 5.3 is the good battle rating for this thing. With its air spawn and its power, its firepower, it's quite good still, but it is not as dominating as it used to be at 5.0. So in the end, looking backwards, I think that change is good. It just didn't give the same feel, unfortunately, in the plane, as it's not quite as dominating. You just face a few more opponents that are top, and you are more in the 6.0, 5.7, 6.3 range even than before. You were down tiered a little bit more often and stuff like that. So the overall experience in the Twin Mustang is less dominating, but as you fly carefully and you stick to its pros, you can still do an amazing job in this plane. Now, before we go into the details, don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet, and support me on my other channels, on Locals and on Rumble. I would highly appreciate it. Leave me a comment as well and like the video. So for this plane in speed, the maximum speed of this plane at sea level without WEP is 564 kilometers an hour, with WEP 610. At 4,500 meters it will go up to 515 without WEP and 530 with. And finally at 6,500 meters you can reach 487 without WEP and 498 with. Now these speeds at 5.0 were fantastic. At 5.3 they're good. They're still pretty good. It's still a fast plane. There's some planes that will outspeed it, but not too many. So it's still up there in straight line speeds at all the altitudes. Top speed in a dive is 811 before she redlines and 875 before she rips apart. Now she has quite good acceleration in a dive. So that window between 811 and 875 is not that big. It's only 64 kilometers an hour, that gap. And I found it to be small, and it comes into view, the rip speed, fairly quickly, feeling wise, after you get over the red line. So be aware of that. This plane is not that good in a dive when it comes to, when push comes to shove. Let's say there's many American planes that can reach 900 plus kilometers an hour. This one isn't. It doesn't have that. It has too much drag. It is too much of a big plane, and she will rip earlier. Logically, control stiffening in this plane is fantastic though. There is, after 400 kilometers an hour, she starts to come into her element and she starts to roll really nicely. And at 600 you have a small dip in the compression. And at 750 you get another hit, but the hits are very small and the roll rate stays fantastic up until she rips. So it is very possible that you are capable against, for example, 109s or Spitfires to get the guns on target fairly reasonably easy. So yeah, she's good in a dive as long as the dive lasts. It does not last as long as some of the other American planes at this battle rating and around, but she has a better roll rate right up till the end of the speed limit here. So that's very nice. The stall speed in this plane comes quite early. It's 165. It's not very good when it comes to the average on these planes here in this range, but yeah. She does have two powerful engines, and that is good, but the stall speed isn't great. Firepower in the plane is average if you don't take the gun pots. You only have 650 cals, but they are M3 Browning machine guns, so that's again good. But 650 cal caliber guns is average to decent, but it's great with the gun pots added. You add with the gun pot 8 12.7mm M2 Browning machine guns with 400 rounds per gun, and the 6 regular guns also have 400 rounds per gun. It's just that the fire rate is much quicker in the M3s than in the M2, so you're much likely to land a killing shot with the M3 50 cals, which is good. The ammo loads in this plane are very good. 400 rounds per gun is awesome. This plane can also be equipped with bombs, rockets, or the gun pod. As I said, that is the choice. I would also always go for the gun pod, but hey, that's just me. I like that, but you can use this plane for a close air support role then as well, with bombs or rockets. Now, as for ammunition, I would go for the tracers. I have recently rediscovered tracers. I never really liked tracers back in the day when I flew Americans a lot, because of the huge amount of fireworks that it creates, and it sometimes obscures the target, and it used to bug me back in the old days. But I noticed that these days it doesn't quite bug me as much, and you get many more fires for some reason. The default belt has armor piercing incendiary tracer shells, 2 armor piercing shells and an incendiary shell. If you want AP, you can better use the ground belt, so I wouldn't use the default belt. The universal belt has 2 times armor piercing incendiary, 1 APIT with tracer, and 2 incendiaries, which has incendiary in every shell as well, but for some reason those tracer shells with armor piercing and then the incendiary component just work better when it comes to that, so I would choose the tracers. The ground belt has APIT, 1 incendiary, then 2 APs and 2 APIs, which is also a good belt. I would say a lot of AP there as well, so you can use that for when you want to go ground pounding. The stealth belt has API, incendiary, API, incendiary, so that's 50-50. Also incendiary in every shell, but those incendiary shells without AP are less efficient for some reason, I think, because it doesn't give as many fire. So tracers, I fell in love with the tracers recently, so maybe I'm late to the party, but yeah, as I said, the firework aspect of it doesn't bother me so much anymore, and I find the amount of fires you get extra somehow is great. Performance in this plane is pretty good. You have acceleration in a straight line, which is good. In a dive, it's very good. Energy retention in the horizontal is very good, and in the vertical is good. It's just not that great in the vertical because of the early stall speed, so you have to pull out of a stall fight a little bit earlier, which isn't always beneficial, but this is a plane with which you can create an advantage. Climb rate is decent to good. It has an air start, so that is nice. On smaller to medium maps he rules. On the bigger maps the advantage falls away because the climb rate is only decent to good. So in the end better climbers can catch up to you. On altitude, turn time in the plane is average. Above average with flaps. Flaps rip off at around 715, which is great. Flaps are quite sturdy. Roll rate in the plane is very good, and it starts to become that very good above 450. Before that it is decent. Overall maneuverability is decent to good, depending on the speed. It's great above 450, especially in the roll rate. Overheating in this plane is not an issue. It is really not an issue. Well, even with a lot of web usage you only overheat very late on, and it is easy to cool her off, so that is great. She has good durability, she can take a beating. It is a big target though, so you are more easily hit, and yeah, there is that, but she does take the hits well then, which is good. And overall in your tactical situation, when you're boom and zooming, this plane with the air start on most maps will be dominating, which is also a good thing to have, because she does need it. I mean, in the end people can recover their energy easier than this plane. Planes that have better climb rate and stuff like that. She is not a cheap plane to repair though. The repair cost is 16,331 Silver Lions, which is bad. It's one of the worst at this battle rating. The rewards are good though. You have an RP modifier of 368% with a 1.84 multiplier. The Silver Lion rewards are with the modifier is 330%, and then a multiplier of 2.2, which is for the RP it's very good, and for the Silver Lions it is good. So you get good rewards in this plane, but that is offset by the quite hefty repair cost, which is unrivaled at this battle rating. So, damn, and the Twin Mustang is a plane that is great at boom and zooming and energy fighting to an extent. As you have the high precision with the air start, you can maintain it for a long time, especially because of the energy retention and the acceleration. But you do have to be careful in stall fights, because he does stall out earlier than many of the single seat fighters, and this one is just a little bit more heavy when it comes to that, and it will take a little bit more careful setting up, and more will be asked of your decision making when it comes to the higher ends, and when do I turn the plane around, and how much energy does the enemy hold. Very important, your decisions in this plane, because it can turn out sour, let's say, because of that. But all in all, I still really like the Twin Mustang. It's a robust plane with a lot of firepower that comes from altitude, and it's just wonderful to fly. On speed, when she's fast, you have the maneuverability and the roll rate and stuff like that, and she can be quite a menace to the enemy team. And yeah, man, that tracer belt, I am quite happy with it. Of course, for convergence you don't really need to do anything special here. Everything is quite centralized. The regular guns are right on top of the gun pod, and they fire in a very attractive beam, let's say, which can be a dead beam. Very powerful. The M3 Browning machine guns, which you don't have a lot at the battle rating. Most of the guns for the Americans are the M2s, but in the Twin Mustang you run with 6 M3s, which have a better fire rate, and which gives you a more lethal beam, because the shots come closer together, so less opportunity to fly through your shots, which can be quite frustrating when you think that you shot the target, but it happens, right? It happens, we all know that. But the M3s help to mitigate that a little bit. And then the gun pod with 8 M2s is, you know, it just adds that punch to it. Awesome plane. And yeah, all in all, it is just a joy to fly. Now let's look at the scoreboard for the 3-kill match. We had best squad, 26,000 Silver Lions and 9,000 research points. I'll see you in the conclusion. If you're new here, make sure to hit the subscribe button, become part of this community. If you are already a subscriber, don't forget to like the video, do leave me a comment, and if you really feel like helping out today, make sure to share the video with your friends and let them know about the channel.